إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفر ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Alhamdulillah, this is a Ramadan special, inshallah ta'ala. I don't want people to think that we're going to do this all the time, but we got a question that was sent on the email, and we want to address that question right away through video for anybody else who had that same understanding. So we're going to deviate just slightly off our normal broadcasting and deal with the issue that was on the email. So I have to read the email. It came on YouTube. It said, I'm afraid the brother has made a mistake. In Arabic, the verb does not have 36 scales or shapes. The brother might be referring to the patterns of broken plurals. Most advanced works on grammar mention up to 15 forms of verb patterns, forms 11 to 15, as well as form 9 being extremely rare. Nevertheless, Allah reward the brother for his enthusiasm and sincere efforts. Ameen. Alhamdulillah, one of the things that we learned, one of our teachers, Ustadh Abu Mujahid, Hafidhullah, he used to say, whenever you get a question, you learn one or two things. A flaw in your own research or a flaw in the other person's research. Also, if you only hear what you've already heard, walaikum salam wa rahmatullah, that means you've never learned anything. But if you hear something that is contradictory to what you're accustomed to, then research that to see whether you've learned something new or, again, if there's a flaw in the person's research. Also, one of the things that the ulama talk about, they say those who dare to teach must never cease to learn. I do make mistakes when I'm doing these lessons, and that's from sur'at al-takallami. That's from me talking real fast in my eagerness to get the information to you. So I might say fa when I mean wa, or I might make a statement that is not totally in keeping with what I understand. It's not from the da'f or the weakness of the information. Here, I went back, and it's true what he said. It's not 36 forms, it's 35 in the books, in the classical books. I always listed as 36 because at the 36th chapter, there's an explanation of different types of verbs from a different angle. So I always help myself remember it from that way, and also because in the same book, in the first chapter of Al-Bina', which is a classical work in Arabic grammar, it mentions that the 6 mujarrid, or secondary naked verbs. I want to mention why he says 15. The person who wrote this says 15 forms. It shows that he studied from what we call the Mustashrikeen. The Mustashrikeen are what we call in Arabic the Orientalists, or the Masons. The Masons have for years dominated these studies in Arabic, in the English language, with books like Hans Ware's dictionary, Lane's lexicon, and Wright's. Pass me that book over there. Wright's book on Arabic grammar. These books were written in the 1800s, 1700s, even in the 1600s. Then you have Ibn Nadim's book on also speaking about the history of Arabic grammar. And these people, you have to remember, they wrote, this was Wright's a grammar of the Arabic language. Now this is the book where, in here, and this was, I think it was 1896, this book was written. In this book, they mention 15 forms, and it says these 11 such and such are rare. This is because these Orientalists, when they go and they come to the Arabic language, they don't love the Arabic language, number one. Number two, they're not trying to learn it so that they can get closer to Allah. They're trying to learn it so they can compare it with their languages and try to say that their language is superior, so they want to show the inferiority of Arabic. Or they want to show how, if they can't prove superiority, they say, oh, well, it's equal and it's just like our language. Our Sheikh Muhammad Salim al-Daduda Shinqiti, Hafidhullah, when we went to go study with him, he would not allow us to use these English books by these kafirs, by these non-Muslims who we call these mustashriqeen, these Orientalists, until first we would check them with the Arabic originals. And he said we don't get our deen from these type of people. Jazakallah khair, Imam. Jazakallah khair, barakallah fikum. We don't get our deen from these people. And I didn't understand that at that time because I figured it's just a dictionary, just a lexicon. But it's true. The way they put their argument across is not the same way. And like I said, they don't know what they're talking about. I've read some of their works, and they're very, very shallow in their understandings. So, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to list, not 15, but I'm going to list 35 forms of Arabic verbs. And the reason why we're going to go through this, because we haven't really studied Arabic verbs. We went through and we said we're studying Arabic, right? Then we mentioned how many sciences are in Arabic. 13 sciences of Arabic, right? But we're just studying Nahwu and Sarf, right? We're going to study Nahwu, right? And we're going to study Sarf, right? Nahwu is grammar. Sarf is the etymology, the breakdown of the words. In here, we get into tasrif al-af'al, the breaking down verbs. Okay? And so for this person, and the reason why we wanted to promote this and get this out real quick, because anybody else who has that same understanding, that Arabic verbs are only 15, no. Arabic, by virtue of the word, what does the word araba mean? To make something crystal clear, to leave no doubt about something. So then, how could such a clear language only have 15? So we're going to go through, we're going to list them, and then when we get deeper into it, we'll explain what each one of them mean, inshallah. So I'm going to go real kind of quick, and maybe quicker than I normally go, and you're going to have to watch this a couple of times to keep up with me. One time, what reminds me of this, when I was in Mauritania, during that time, Chechnya was first starting a war with Russia. Chechnya is a Muslim country. They were fighting Russia. At that time, the people in Chechnya, the Mujahideen in Chechnya, Barakallah fihim wa rahimahumullah, they sent some people to Mauritania to come learn usul al-fiqh, to learn the language, so that when they finished winning the war, these people could come back and be judges in their country. So the sheikh, he put one of the Russian guys, he was from Caucasus, a true Caucasian from Caucasus Mountains, the Caucasus Mountains and this stuff. Me and him were in the dawah together. We were in a circle together. We were partners in learning the language. And the sheikh did that to show, look, here it is, people from two opposite ends of the world. And here we put them together because our togetherness is based on the unity of Islam. I grew up hating white people. Come from Brooklyn. And the oppression that you grow up, I'm born in the 60s. So we remember different things than the kids growing in the 90s and later now. But this man was my brother. And then one day he wanted to make a tape to send it back to motivate the Mujahideen in Caucasus, and while they're fighting these Russians. And the sheikh got dressed in his best clothes. And this is difficult in the desert. This is difficult because we live in a suitcase, literally, in a trunk. And all our clothes get dust on it anyway. So he had his clothes wrapped up. You know, you have a regular outfit, then one you wear on Jumu'ah and on the Eid. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. So he took it out. He wiped it off, and he got dressed, he put on oil, and he sat down, turned the tape on, and never did he let people tape him. He said the taping, alaykum salam, makes the mind relax. When you tape something, and you know it's being taped, you don't think so hard. So he said, I want you to be fresh, because you're never going to hear it like this again. And he said today, as he was taping and sending his tape to the Mujahideen, he said, he was saying, Barakallah fihim, for those Mujahideen and everything. Today, the lugha, the language, is almost gone. It's being lost. Those that remember it are almost all dead, and the books that recorded it, they're being eaten up. Meaning, and out in the desert, we wrap the books up in leather, in the leather of what do you call it, ibl, the camels and the goats, and they still get eaten up by the ants. And he said, and those that remember it, they're few, and I'm the only one left that I know that remembers some of these things. So today, some of the things I'm going to tell you, you're not going to find in no books. And he started crying. And everybody started crying. And he broke down the language and explained to us different things that I ain't never heard or read from other people before. So today, if those people who've been reading these books, these Orientalist books, that's cool. Do what you can do. Barakallahu fikum, to stop where you got. Before we didn't have this. But now we're having people that's going over, studying the traditional way, and coming back, using that blue passport, and going. So now let's get to it. Alhamdulillah, I need something to wipe the board. I'm going to need one of you guys to wipe the board for me as I go through this, inshallah ta'ala. The first form is fa'ala. Fa'ala. Now, I'm only going to put on the ain of the letter. Take this off the board right here. And take that off of there. Only the ain of the letter. Because that's the one yuhimmuna. That's the part that makes it different for us. This is the first form. So everybody say fa'ala. Race this better than this. Because this is, race that harder. Because I don't want the pen to mess up. Okay, jazakallah khair. Fa'ala. يفعل فعل يفعل كنصر ينصر. Okay? Nasra yansuru. This is the first form in Arabic verbs. I'm giving you an example of usage. Nasra yansuru. And it's mostly for muta'addi. A verb is of two types. We can break down verbs in lots of different ways. Here we're going to do the mizan, the shapes, like he said. And just to remember, you know, we weren't trying to make, I'm not trying to make fun of the brother or anything like that. He said in his letter that maybe I was talking about the broken plurals. Remember, we're talking about verbs. Broken plurals are ismun. They're dealing with supernouns. So it's far ba'idun jiddan, and for us to say that we're talking about broken plurals and we're talking about supernouns or ismun, but here we're talking about fi'lun. So there's no way in the world are we really talking about broken plurals, okay? That's a totally different animal. We broke the language down into 3 types, right? There is ismun, there is fi'lun, and there is harfun. We're dealing with the fi'lun. We've been dealing with the harfun because that's the first part, and now we're going to deal with the fi'lun. This is muta'addi. So a verb is of 2 types. It's aggressive, say muta'addi. That means it's aggressive. That means it takes a maf'ulun bi. It takes an objective. It takes an object. Muta'addi means aggressive. But, like here, nasara yansuru. Nasara means he helped. He has to have helped someone. And the other type of verb is lazim. Everybody say lazim. Lazim means it sticks to you. Meaning, so somebody called mutalazim, you know, he's sticking to his deen. Multazim, I'm sorry. Multazim, he's someone who sticks to the deen. So a verb that's lazim, it sticks to the person who did it, and it doesn't take an object of the verb. For example, he came. He came. Who came? He. Who did it affect? Him. Okay, so these are 2 types of verbs. And I'm going to state, see, each form has a meaning. The meaning of the verb could either be matlub, it could be seeking something, seeking, a talab of a fi'lun. It could be what we call over here muta'addi, which is aggressive, right? Then it could also be mutawa'a, obedient. It's an obedient verb. Or it could be mubalagha, showing extreme. And then we have that lazim, it sticks. Okay? It sticks to something, aggressive. These are the different types of verbs, basically. Okay? So, fa'ala yaf'ulu kanasara yansuru. That's the first type. The second type is, let me just go right here. The second type is, we go fa'ala, again, fa'ala yaf'alu, or yaf'ilu. Fa'ala yaf'ilu. Fa'ala yaf'ilu. Don't worry about it. The second type, fa'ala yaf'ilu kadaraba yadribu. Kadaraba yadribu. Say daraba yadribu. So here, the fatha is on the ayn of the letter, and there's a kasra on it when it goes to the mudari. So it's fa'ala yaf'ulu ka nasra yansuru, and fa'ala yaf'ilu ka daraba yadribu. Okay, that's the second one we have right there. So we have fa'ala and fa'ila, right? I'm sorry. Fa'ala, yaf'ilu, and yaf'ulu. The third type is going to be over here. Fa'ala yaf'alu. Say fa'ala yaf'alu. Kafataha yaftahu. And this is with the ayn of the letter. The ayn, which is the middle radical we spoke about before. A verb is broken and explained as fa'ala. The fa is the first root, the ayn is the second root, the lam is the last. So when we say the fa of the word, we mean the first radical, the first root, the middle root is the ayn, the lam is called the last one. Okay, so fataha yaftahu, the ayn is going to be a fatah. This happens when the word, and this one also is from muta'addi. This is aggressive, this is aggressive. Okay? Daraba yadribu. Daraba means to hit. He hit someone. So it's an aggressive verb most of the times. But it could come lazim. Okay? We'll get into that later. Here, fataha yaftahu. When I say it, you say it. Fataha yaftahu. It comes when the ayn or the lam of the letter is one of the 6 letters of the hulk. Hamzun, faha'un, right? Thumma aynun, ha'un, muhmalatani, thumma ghaynun, kha'un. When one of the ayn or the lam of the letter is one of these 6 letters, these called huruf al-halqi, then that letter is going to be fa'ala yaf'alu. And there are some exceptions, but this is the rule. Okay? And see, the thing about when you learn verbs, you get your tongue used to saying it in a certain way, you won't say it in another way. Okay, so we go on to the next one. The fourth one, here is fa'ila. Say fa'ila yaf'alu. That's the asl for this one. Fa'ila yaf'alu ka'alima ya'lamu. Alima ya'lamu. Alima, so here is alima with a kasra, and it ends up with the ayn, or the ayn of the letter having a fatha, right? And this is most of the time, again, aggressive. So all these verbs, a majority of these are going to be aggressive verbs. Okay? So we have fa'ala yaf'ulu ka nasara yansuru, fa'ala yaf'ilu ka daraba yadribu, fa'ala yaf'alu fa fataha yaftahu, and fa'ila yaf'alu ka alima ya'lamu. These are all aggressive. We go to the next one. The fifth one is fa'ila. Everybody say fa'ila. يفعل فعل يفعل كحسب يحسب كحسب يحسب. Okay, now some people can say, well, you can say يحسب. You can say يحسب or يحسب. So this form right here, this is what we call two-faced verbs. Two-faced. Some verbs, they can come with a kasra on the mudari or a fatha. They are, if you I can number them, they're minihsit ma' wa ghirta wa hirta nimba ista ya ista ulih yabis wahila. Those are the two-faced verbs in the Arabic language. Outside of that, when it comes, wathiqa yathiqu. Wathiqa yathiqu. This is when the verb comes with a wow. With a wow as the first radical, as the fa of the letter, then it's going to be wathiqa yathiqu. You understand that? So whenever you have a wow in the beginning of a verb, you automatically know how it's going. It's on fa'ila yafilu. And the verb fa'ila, it has a meaning. The meaning is that it comes and goes. It is a feeling, an emotion that comes and goes. So everything on this scale is going to be like that. Yeah, hasiba is to think, consider. Hisab is considered math. Alima is to know. You can forget. So you don't know. And then over here, wathiqa, he's trustworthy. He might not be trustworthy in something else. It comes and goes. Also, you have hunger, ja'iyah, to be hungry in that regard. Or atisha, to be thirsty. And ghadiba, to be angry. Wa hazina, to be sad. Wa fariha, to be happy. And all of them going to be on the fa'ila yaf'alu scale or the fa'ila yaf'ilu scale. وَلَمْ يَأْتِ إِلَّا غَيْرِ ذَلِكَ. It's not going to come other than that in those types of words. We together? We go to the sixth one. The sixth one is fa'ula. Say it, guys. Yaf'ulu. And you can bank on it. Fa'ula yaf'ulu lam ya'ti ala ghayri dhalik. Fa'ula never comes except for yaf'ulu. Fa'ula never comes except it yaf'alu. And it's always lazim. Just like you say dharufa, dharufa, yadrufu. Or karuma yakrumu. Okay? Or karuma yakrumu, like that. And see yadrufu here. Here, and this is lazim. This type of verb is lazim, meaning it's only going to stick to you. And this is dealing with khalqiyah. This is dealing with, like, hasuna, he's handsome. It's dealing with something that sticks to the person, is very hard to change. Like sa'uba, it's hard. Or sahula, it's easy. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. So those types of words are something that, khalqiyah, that's something the way it was created. Or qabuha, it's ugly. So it's created that way. Erase this board, please. And it only sticks to itself. That's 6. We got 6, right? Keep count for me. Top to bottom. Break it down. And I hope you guys write this down. I'm really banking that you just get the tape and go over it. I don't think you're going to get it the first time, but if you take your time and you watch it, you'll be able to list these off real easy. The next one, we're on 7. We already got 6. We're on 7 step. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. The next one, and the only ones I've been listing so far are called naked verbs. What are they called? Naked verbs. And they come in the poem, بِفَعْلَ لَفِعْلُ ذُو التَّجْرِيدِ أَوْ فَعْلَ يَأْتِي وَمَكْسُورَ عَيْنٍ أَوْ عَلَى فَعْلَ. That 2 lines that I just recited gives you all the naked verbs in the Arabic language. This is the 7th one. It says بِفَعْلَ. So the next one is فَعْلَ. Say فَعْلَ. And here you see an extra lam. فَعْلَ. Everybody say فَعْلَ. يُفَعْلِلُ. يُفَعْلِلُ. كَدَهْرَجَ. Say dahraja, yudahriju. Or you can say jalbaba, yujalbibu. Okay, which is another one people like. I use that one because everybody has a jilbab. So it's jalbaba, yujalbibu, or jawraba, yujawrabu. But we'll talk about that later when we get to it. Here we go, dahraja, yudahriju. I use this, it means to roll. And this is a 4-letter root, but it's asli. This right here is naked. It doesn't have anything added on it. So we learn right here from this word that sometimes a naked verb is 3 letters or 4. If it's on this scale, fa'alala, yufa'alilu, then it's 4. Okay? And this one, mostly right here, is lazim. It sticks to the person that's doing it. Okay? It's lazim. Daharja, he rolled. Okay? Who rolled? He rolled. Okay? So, we go on to the next one. 8. Af'ala. Say af'ala. Yuf'ilu. Yuf'ilu. Ka'akrama. Yukrimu. So here we have a word that is normally, this takes a verb that is normally lazim, it normally sticks to itself, karuma, so he was kareem, generous, so he was generous. Who was generous? He was. Now how do we take that generosity and make it aggressive? Make it maf'ulin, make it have a maf'ulin bi. Okay? Make it causative. So we add that fatha and we say, af'ala yuf'ilu, af'ala yuf'ilu. So now we took that regular verb that was normally not aggressive and we made it aggressive. For akrama, so-and-so. So he was generous to so-and-so. Okay? He took his generosity and he put it on so-and-so. That's the other one. We go on to the the ninth one. Here, fa'ala yufa'ilu. Everybody say fa'ala yufa'ilu. Yufa'ilu. Okay, here we have another word. Allama, I say allama. Yu'allimu. Yu'allimu. Here, we see that the word, again, it takes something, alima, he knew, right? Allama, he made known. Makes it causative. Do you understand that? For he is a mu'allim. So we see that's that form of that word right there. Can I go? The 10th one. Fa'ala. Yufa'ilu. Mufa'alatan. Well, don't worry about it. Yufa'ilu. Okay, so here we have a word like qatala. Yuqatilu. Yuqatilu fi sabilillah. Qatala is for musharaka. I didn't mention that. The sharing. Here, sharing is in the meaning here. This verb right here, qatala means to kill. But qatala means they fought. So the two of them were doing it. They're sharing in that action. Qatala so-and-so, so-and-so. Someone killed someone else. But qatala so-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so were fighting. You understand that? Now, 11. Now, I don't know where he went, which one of these started being rare. None of these are rare so far. Okay? Infa'ala. Infa'ala yanfa'ilu. Like inkasira. Yankasiru. Okay, here we have, this is for obedience. I said some verbs are obedient, right? This verb obeys another verb. So let's say, for example, Allah split the moon, right? He split the moon. So we say, what do we say? اقترب الساعة وانشق القمر. So وانشق القمر, the moon obeyed the order of Allah and it broke. So this is telling you what the moon did, or what that action. So here says kasara means to break something, right? Kasara Abu Tawba az-zujaja. Mukhlis or Abu Tawba broke the glass. What did the glass do? In kasarat az-zujaja. So the glass broke. So now I'm talking about the action of the thing that was worked upon. So it's obeying my fi'lun. Everybody understand that? Okay, so the next one that comes after this is ifta'ala. Say ifta'ala. Yafta'ilu. Yafta'ilu. Like we say right here, ijtama'a. Yajtami'u. Here, this is the same meaning. It's obeying. Why then do we need two different verbs having the same thing, obedience? Yes?
Can you tell with number 11, if it doesn't obey, what would happen?
It has to obey.
So
If it didn't, then it didn't. The verb is showing what's happening.
So if you struck the glass and it didn't break, then it didn't obey.
Right, well then you wouldn't use that verb.
Well, then you wouldn't use the verb. Okay.
Right, you wouldn't use that verb, you'd use another one. Okay, so here we have the scale ifta'ala yafta'ilu, and this also means obey. Remember, your lessons are supposed to be stair-step. If you were to learn tajweed as we learned the letters, if we started with the harf, we would have learned that there are different types of letters. Some of them are called yarmaluna. Everybody say yarmaluna. Yarmaluna. And in yarmaluna you have this thing called yanmu. Yanmu are letters, ya, nun, mim, wow. Okay? In tajweed, you learn that yarmaluna, these words, when you do idgham, there's a certain way you have to pronounce the word that comes after it, because you can't hear a noon after this. When you say man ya'mal, that's yarmaluna in here. Min rabbikum. The noon is gone. So because of that, you can't put those letters next to that noon, because you won't hear it. So you use this scale instead of that scale for those letters that come in this yarmaluna. You understand how that goes? So that's why we have another scale. Your lessons are all tied together. Okay? So here we got it, right over here. Ijtama'a. Ijtama'a, for example, iqtarabat. Allah said, qarraba sa'a. Allah made the sa'a, the hour, come close. So what did the hour do? Iqtarabat as-sa'atu wanshaqqa al-qamar. The hour came close, obeying the order of Allah. Qarrib. Here, qarrib, come close. making it come close. And so, iqtarabat. You got me? So this is what that fi'lun is doing. Erase the board, please. The next one is 13. We're on 13, right? Yes. No weird ones yet. It says, if'alla. If'alla. Yaf'allu. And then here, this one is mostly dealing with aib, things that are the odd. You know, you missed my number, bro. Things that are like deficiencies or colors. So you say, ahmarra, marra, right? If'alla, ahmarra, yahmarru. Here we go, yahmarru. So here is dealing with colors. So he turns red. That's how you express that. Okay, now we're going to come over here. That's 13. Everybody got any questions about that? I usually don't like to work off the paper like this, but you know, I want to make sure I get everything down. Okay, the 14th is tafa'ala. Tafa'ala, yatafa'alu. 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 Here it goes takallama. Yatakallamu. Here, this verb right here, it means takallafu tahsilu shay'in ba'da shay'. It means that something's going to happen little by little. It's like forming a sentence. You use one sound after another one. And that's why they call it takallam. You're speaking. Like walking. You took one step after the other and you take a long distance. Or like this hadith where Allah's Messenger ﷺ said, Al-ilmu bit-ta'allum. Knowledge is by studying. What does it mean by that? Something after something. So in this one means a little bit of one issue after another small issue, and it's another small issue. Thun yusara aliman. Then you know a whole bunch of issues. So it's not like taking great big steps, but it's taking small things after another. And that's what this scale means. Everybody understand that? That's why takallum is such a great one, because it means speaking. One word after another one until finally you have a sentence, and a bunch of little sentences make a whole bunch of words. Make a whole bunch of paragraphs. Okay, then you have a book. Next one. Tafa'ala, 15. Tafa'ala. Yatafa'alu. This one also is musharaka. This is for sharing too. But remember, in Arabic, more letters means more meaning. This means sharing between two or more. Okay? Meaning more than just one or two people. It's two or more sharing in the action. Okay? So you have tafa'ala, taba'ada. Taba'ada, yataba'adu. Meaning they moved far away from each other. They separated like two armies. Taba'at al-jish. You know, the army is separated. Okay? So, my handwriting's getting sloppy. I don't want to. Now we're on, that's 15. We'll go to 16. Sixth one is istaf'ala. Yastaf'ilu. Here we have istaghfara. Yastaghfiru. Okay, here, this is the 16th one, so we're already past 15. And so we should make it istighfar. Astaghfara yastaghfiru. Okay? And here, this means talab. This means to seek something, right? We're seeking the ghafar of Allah in this form right here. Ista is to seek that thing. Okay? Also, well, we go on. I don't want to confuse you guys. 17. Now we get into if'awwala. 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 Yaf'aw'ilu. Again, this is for mubalagha. This is for extreme, to show the extremity of something right here. Like you say, ijlawwada. Ijlawwada yajlawwadu. Oh, no, I gave you the wrong example. I'm sorry. It's still, I'm sorry. Let me give you, I'm sorry. Shawshaba. Shawshaba, shawshabu. Shibu. Shawshabu. Here, this verb right here is like, ashab is to get green, the katharat, to get green, right? The ground gets, really green. And if it says, shawshabu al-ard, if the earth gets shawshabu, that means that it got katharat, it got really lush and green. And like we would imagine, if I hear this word, I would imagine that was, what do you call it, Brazil in the third rainforest. like that. This is what that means. Mubalagha. The next verb, and I'm going to end here because I see the imam right here, and we're going to come back and inshallah and do it. If awwala yaf'awwilu. Here now we ijlaw with her. Yajlawwidhu. And here, this is yajlawwidhu. Like if an ibl runs fast, they call it jalatha al-ibl. He's running fast. Ijlawwad al-ibl is when that ibl, he burnt out. He sped out of there. You know, that's what this word. So again, this is for mubalagha. It expresses with an extreme sense what is happening and how that thing happened. And inshallah, we're at 18. We're going to go to 35 inshallah ta'ala to clarify the whole issue about how many verbs. And I'm telling you what they mean. Wallahi ladhim. You can search for 10 years and find it very hard to find out what each form means until you start studying in Arabic. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم. السلام عليكم. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفر ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. We're here again on part 2 of the same lesson where we're responding to a question, not a question, a statement on the internet, on YouTube, from Arabic class number 2, part 3. Where it was stating again that I'm afraid the brother has made a mistake. In Arabic, the verb does not have 36 scales or shapes. The brother might be referring to the patterns of broken plurals. Most advanced works on grammar mention up to 15 forms of verb patterns. Forms 11 to 15 as well as form 9 being extremely rare. Nevertheless, Allah reward the brother for his enthusiasm and sincere efforts. Ameen. So we're dealing with that question again. We already mentioned 18 forms. And only one of those, maybe, see the thing about it, people, is that the Arabic forms are only rare if you don't talk Arabic. Okay? If you speak Arabic, they are not rare. Assalamu alaikum. Alhamdulillah. Kayf halak? Alhamdulillah. So, you know, it would be weird to anyone, because you got to remember, these Orientalists, they're only going, if you read their histories, they tell you they went to the Arab lands for a long time, or for this amount, they spent a year or 2 or 3 years or 5 years, and they were missing, you know, their countries. And so they were there, sent over there to do a service, learn this language, and take it back to whoever they were taking it back, the great Duke of Marmaduke, or whatever the thing was. I was reading one of them was saying that. What does this one say? From the German of Caspar, translated from the German of Caspari and edited with numerous additions and corrections by W. Wright, LLD. This is how the Masons put their names. Late professor of Arabic in the University of Cambridge, okay, and the University of Leiden. And this, like I said, this is a grammar. This one was written in 1896. Okay, this is when he did this. Okay, and this is mostly, and they always point to Hebrew or German, and that's what their emphasis on the language is. Our thing is not to take from them. We don't learn from them. We learn from our scholars, and we have works written down that explain each and every verb form, and they make it very clear in children's books. The book I'm referring to now is called Al-Bina. Al-Bina is a few pages. I copied it today just so somebody wanted to see it. It's really small. This is Matan al-Bina, and it's from the book of the Mutun al-Ilmiya. It's a book which has texts that the scholars and the students of the scholars have to use. These are the texts, the classics that we use to gauge each other. Someone says that he's a scholar of Arabic, he has to have studied Al-Bina. It's one of the first things he would have to do. And then the first chapter, I don't know if you can get all of this up here. The first chapter, not even chapter, the first sentence, it says, "I'lam, no, أن أبواب التصريف 35 بابا." That the chapters, the scales of Arabic tasrif, you know, declination of or showing the different types of verbs, are 35. 6 of them are naked. I say 6, 7 of them are naked. 7 of them are naked verbs. I mentioned the way I set those verbs up are the 7 naked verbs first. Because fa'ila yaf'ilu is its own scale. So in this book, he doesn't count it as its own scale. Okay? So, and then we put fa'ala as the 7th scale. So here we have it like that. Now we're on 18. And let me show you how many pages this thing is. It's 1 page, 2 page, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the last page, 7. That's it. Real short. And all it teaches you are these, and the last chapter is the 36th chapter. And it's broken down, here it goes. It's broken down, this second chapter, it breaks down the tasrif in another format. Okay? So, that's the chapter that I refer to all the time. That's that. It's real simple. So it's no, so like he said, on those advanced books of who? Not Muslim scholars. Because in the advanced books of the Muslim scholars, you get to scales like Lamiyat al-Af'al. And the first chapter explains, the first line in the poem, where it says, بِفَعْلَ لَا فِعْلُ ذُو التَّجْرِيدِ أَوْ فَعُلَ يَأْتِي وَمَكْسُورَ عَيْنٍ أَوْ أَلَا فَعْلَ. That's the first line. It just describes 6 different types of verbs. It said, بِفَعْلَ لَا. That's the 7th one I showed you. بِفَعْلَ لَا فِعْلُ ذُو تَجْرِيد. A فِعْلٌ ذُو تَجْرِيد. This means a naked verb. A naked verb. بِفَعْلَ لَا فِعْلُ ذُو التَّجْرِيدِ أَوْ فَعْلَ. So a naked verb comes بِفَعْلَ لَا أو فَعُلَ. Right? With the dhamma. أو مكسور عين. The مكسور عين means it has a kasra on the عين. أو على فعل. Boom. Now فعل, it comes in 3 ways. فعل يفعل. Somebody turn off their phone, please. And فعل يفعل. And فعل يفعل. And we mentioned the examples. فعل يفعل كنصر ينصر. فعل يفعل كفتح يفتح. فعل يفعل كضرب يضرب. These are all different scales. Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We start there. The Mustashrikeen in their books, they list 15. They count fa'ila as 1. That's their first mistake. Then they don't even count fa'ula or fa'ila. They count all of this and think it's fa'ula. Fa'ala. What you do when you start to research, see, you don't use them as an asl. You don't use them as a foundation. But you go to see, well, where was this guy confused? These people are confused. You know, they're poor students. We pointed that out when we look at some of the Greek writings that they did in antiquity. Very poor that they took from the people that they took them from, the Arabs of old. So now we start this off understanding, in one line of poetry, it blows all that away. بِفَعْلَلَ فِعْلُ ذُو التَّجْرِيدِ أَوْ فَعُلَ يَأْتِي بِمَكْسُورٍ عَيْنٍ أَوْ عَلَى فَعَلَ. And the reason why he started this way in the first line, because fa'lala is easy. Fa'lala. Jalbaba. You know this word. Jilbab comes from this root. Then you say fa'ula. Why? Because fa'ula only comes yaf'ulu. There's nothing changed about that. Then it goes stair step to fa'ila. Maksurun ain. Why does it go fa'ila next? Because this is 1 scale. This is 1 scale. This is 2 scales. Because it goes fa'ila yaf'alu. Right? And it goes fa'ila yaf'ilu. Right? So fa'ila yaf'alu ka'alima ya'lamu. Right? Alima ya'lamu. And then it goes fa'ila yaf'ilu kawathiqa yathiqu. Wathiqa yathiqu. Or hasiba yahsibu. Min ihsib ma' wagirta. Wagira yaghiru. Na'ima yan'imu. Wahirta. Wahira yahiru. And those words that come like that. So here we number this, then he goes to fa'ala. Because now you learned 1, now you learned 2, and now you're going to learn 3. So you're ready for this 3 changes. And that's how he gets it started. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 types right there. 8 actually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You know, 7. Alhamdulillah. I'm not good with math. Huh?
On one line.
On one line of poetry. Then it explains those in the next coming verse, and then we get to this other. That's Lamiyat al-Af'al. We're not even there yet. We're doing al-Bina. Al-Bina is studied during the afternoon. You read it in an afternoon. But when we sit down and study in the traditional way, you sit there and you study, let's say from Asr to Isha. And by the time Isha comes, you say, oh, I get it. So it's really a lot of hours that you're putting in there to get to the point. So could you erase this board for me, please? And let's get on. We're going to do 18. We got 35 to do. And then for a treat, what I wanted to do is I was going to do a review of all the signs and symbols in the Quran. Just because we're going into Ramadan, you can use the CD, the base, and wonder if you ever thought, while you're reading Quran, you say, okay, I want to remember what that was, what that meant. We put it down. So let's go fast. And like I said, I expect you to rewind. That's cool. Rub it hard so I don't mess up my pens. Alhamdulillah. Okay, we were on 18. I'm going to do 18 again, inshallah. If awwala, I know I'm saying, you know. If awwala, yaf'awwilu, ijlawwada, yajlawwidhu, and yajlawwidhu is, like I said, jalada is to run fast. Right? For like an ibl or a horse. But ijlawwada is he took off. Like they said, like a bat out of, and he got out of there. Okay? So, now I'm Hind, kidder. And then you have this is 18. So now we're on 19. 19 is if Allah. If Allah. If Allah, yaf'alu. Okay? And this again, this is lil mubalighatul lazim. Remember the first lazim, I said it sticks to you, right? And I said more letters, more meaning. Remember from the verb that we had, if Allah is like this. If Allah. And I said like ihmarra, right? He turned red. I told you mostly this scale is used for deficiencies or colors, right? Every scale is real clear. So when you even hear the scale, you know it has to do with something dealing with that. He had a messed up eye. You know what I'm saying? Or ihmarra, he got, but ihmara, or yahmaru, meaning that it's to the extreme. Mubalagha is extreme. He got redder than red. He turned purple. You know, but see, in Arabic is clear. He turned super red, if you want to see. But Arabic, you can't even do the expression in English because English is whack. It's weak like that. It doesn't have the expression. You have to turn to another color to explain it. But to be bright red, beat red, it would be like this statement right here. Okay? Ihmara. He turned, ahmarra rajul, the man turned red. La. Ihmara. Say, wow. Subhanallah. You know what I'm saying? He didn't just turn red and blush. He turned purple, you know, or whatever you want to say. So then the other one is, what do you call it? Ablaq. This is ablaq hadha. It says fa'ala. Now we're on 20. 20 is fa'ala. Fa'ala. Yufaw'ilu. Yufaw'ilu. Kahawqala. Hawqala. Yuhawqilu. Yuhawqilu. Here we have a word now. This is when you take a noun or yeah, we would say noun, a person, place, or thing, and say that the man did that thing. Haqala is a field. Okay? Haqal. Not haqala, astaghfirullah. Yahmakumullah. Haqal is a field. Yeah. Hawqala rajul, meaning he turned that into a field. You get it? He ja'alahu haqlun. It wasn't like that. He took all the rocks out and stuff like that. Also, it could mean, based on the statement, he said, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. You understand? He made a statement, place and place or thing, and he made it into an action. You see how that goes? Does everybody got me? Yes. Okay. Now, haqalun is a field. This scale right here takes that word field and makes it an action. It flips it into an action. So if we say haqlun is a field, in English you would say he made it into a field. But in Arabic say, يعني حوقل رجل. That man turned, حوقل زيد بيته, or حوقل زيد أرضه. He turned his earth, his property, his land into a field. It means he knocked everything down, pulled the rocks out and stuff like that. But in this meaning, you could also flip this meaning and say حوقل, meaning that he said لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. Because there's the format for that. Like you say Basmala. You say Basmala meaning Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Hawqala meaning La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. You understand that? So to say that, he said, Yuhawqala rajulu. The man is saying, La hawla wa la quwwata. What was he doing? Yuhawqala. Yuhawqilu, I'm sorry. He was saying that. Kana yuhawqilu. So this is different ways. Based on, you would tell the difference based on the sentence, how the sentence was set up. Does that make sense? But if you're learning this, see, when you learn al-bina, you get familiar. Stair steps. You get familiar with these. So then when you go to lamiyat al-af'al, and you start getting into it more, you say, okay, now I'm stepping on something. I know there's 30-something, for 35 different babs, and the 36 one is dealing with the different types, was dealing with sahih, and mu'tal, and mithal, and muda'af, and lafif al-maqroon, and ajwaf, and mahmuz, and these different things. So I'm knowing these different things about the verbs, about these actions. Now you're learning more about it. You know? And they say like the lugha is like a house. The Shaykh, Hafidhullah, he said the language is like a house. You know? And the road to it and the doors, you want to own them? Learn sarf. You want to own the road to this language? You want to own the doors to it? Learn how to deal with these fi'lun. Man yuhkim tasarrifuhu. Whoever can master flipping them and turning them away the way they're supposed to. But let me hurry up because I don't want to mess up the time. Yuhawqilu fay'ala. Fay'ala. Yufay'ilu. Now, the same thing. You saw it done with the wow. You see the wow is added here, the ya is added here. So when those verbs that have a wow in the middle, then they use this verb, this form. If it has a ya in the middle, then you use this verb. You understand where I'm coming from? So you say fay'ala, which means the same thing. It's taking something that is jamid, taking something that is not an action and making it into an action, meaning a person, place, or thing. Here, for example, you put right here, baytara. Baytara, yubaytiru. Yubaytiru. Meaning like this, it's muta'addi, it's aggressive. In this form, this verb is taken on an aggressive format. How can I say it? Muta'addiyan is aggressive. So baytara here would mean that he took the pencil. Baytara zaydun qalaman. You say it like that. Baytara zaydun qalam. He took the pen and he cut it up. He cut the pen and made it. What do you say when you do something to the pen? You sharpen the pen. But in Arabic, it doesn't mean sharpen it. It means he made it ready for usage. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? I guess it would be sharpening a pencil. Okay? Anyway. 22. Fa'wala. Fa'wala. Yufa'wilu. Here we go. Jahwara. Jahwara. Yujahwiru. Here's the same thing. Yujahwiru al-Qur'an. Jahwara Zaydun al-Qur'an. Jahara means to be loud, right? Jahwara al-Qur'an, he wasn't reciting that loud, but he was reciting loud enough. See how it clears? Jahwara. Not Juwayhira, because you can't say that he wasn't that loud, he was small, but this is it. He was like a little loud. Jahwara Zaydun al-Qur'an. Laysa jahratan jiddan. Get it? So, here the form of the verb. 23. Fa'yala. Fa'yala. Yufa'yilu. Yufa'yilu. Here we have like fa'ala, it's like ashyara. Ashyara. Yu'ashiru. Yu'ashyiru. Yu'ashyiru. Right here, this is lazim. It sticks to you. But again, it's taking something that's normally not an action and making it an action. Ashara is the word, right? 10. Yu'ashyiru, meaning ashyara zaydun, meaning he got to be big. Not himself, but now Zayd, let's say he had a lot of children. He became his own qabila. Now Zayd, that little bitty Zayd that we knew, now you have qabila to Zayd. Because of all his children. Meaning they became more than 10 of them. And you see a qabila, a tribe or a clan is called ashira. Right? Allah tells us to warn akrabun, ashiratukum ashirataka akrabun. To warn your ashira, your clan, the close ones to you. You know, your near relatives, kith and kin, basically. So ashyara rajulun is he became to be more than what he was. You know, in peoples, in size. Tala'a. Does that make sense? Then we have 24. 24 is a little technical. Okay? It's again fa'lala. It's a fa'lala verb. Fa'lala. But the difference is here, whereas the first fa'lala that we did was naked, right? I said it had no, and a naked verb from a mazid verb is it doesn't have any additions to it. This one right here, this style, is a fa'lala verb that has an addition. Something is added, so the letters in that verb are not asliyan. They're not originally part of that verb. Okay? Does that make sense? And sometimes you'll find some of the scholars saying, well, in this one, you can use, remember the first one? I didn't use, I said daharaja, right? And I said, well, you could use jalbaba, right? Here you use jalbaba. Why? Because it says the last radical will be the same. It will be the same as, like the ba is twice. Like the lamb is twice. Jalbaba. Like fa'lala. So that's the difference here. In this one. So fa'lala yufa'lilu. Here you have jalbaba. Jalbaba yujalbibu. Here, like that. You understand? If he started to wear jilbab. Okay? Erase the board. That's 24 of them. I'll do 25 up here while they're erasing the board. Erase this too, please. 25. And you said fa'ala, say fa'ala. Yufa'alu. I mean yufa'ali, I'm sorry. Yufa'ali la salqa. Say salqa. Yusalqi. Yusalqi means he fell asleep on his neck. You know how you see people sometimes, they be like leaning and they be like this. This is salqa. He fell on the back of his neck. And he was like that. So he's going to get a crick in his neck, right? We say that. He's going to get a crick in his face. That's how you express that in Arabic. Salqa rajul. He fell asleep on his qafahu, on the back of his neck. Arabic, this is just the form. Fa'ala. Here, the ziyada to here is the ya at the end, or alif maqsura, based on the bina of the word. Okay? The extraction, the growing of the word. We're on 26. Hope nobody's getting bored. 26. تفعلل تفعلل يتفعلل يتفعلل للو. Here تدهرج يتدهرج. Now what's the difference? I said daharaja means to roll, right? I said daharaja means to roll. He rolled. Daharaja rajulun. He was rolling. Like your children do all the time. They always daharaja al-ard. They're always turning. Why do we say tadaharaja? Yatadahariju. What's the difference? I said ziyadatul letters, more letters, means more meaning, right? Here, this expression here is mutawwa'a. They rolled something. Okay? And that thing, tadaharajat. So they rolled the ball. So what did the ball do? Tadaharajat al-kurra. You understand where it comes from? So this one is mutawwa. It's obeying the fi'lun al-daharaja. Does that make sense? No? Remember I said obedience before? Does that make sense? I see a bunch of flies and moths go like this. But does that make sense when we add the ta there? Why we do that? Every little bit changes the word. Okay, every little bit changes. And when we can get technical, I don't want to confuse people and talk about the different arguments. Some of the ulama say, nah, don't change until it changes in the middle or the end of the word. But it's a change. If you want to understand the af'al, understand that the change has happened. That ta is now part of the word. On a rubai, on a 4-letter root word. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that means that that verb is not happening because of it in and of its own self. Something happened to make it go into action or to make that fi'lun happen. And that has to be understood because fiqh is based on how you understand the language of the words. Our whole understanding is what is an amr. How do we determine what an order is? And what does an order mean in the language? So we need to understand when we're talking about, like when we say, iqtarabat as-sa'a, did it come by itself or did something cause it to come? This shows that something caused it to go into rolling. I hope that makes sense. Like I said, I don't want to get too technical and bore anybody. But here we go. Okay, 27. Can I get another pen? Could you pass me another pen, please? 27 is if'an la, if'an la la, if'an la la, yaf'an lilu. Thank you. Sorry. إحرنجة إحرنجما يحرنجم يحرنجم. And again, for the same reason. Remember we had ifta'ala yafta'ilu and infa'ala yanfa'ilu for the same reason. This one also is mutawwa'a, okay? Or this right here, this word is mutawwa'a, meaning it's obedience, but for the different scales that you can add the noon in them that you can't have the noon in the other ones. Does that make sense? When we said yarmaluna, those certain letters, that when you set up a word, they can't be behind the noon because you don't hear the noon. So you use ifta'ala instead. Okay? Remember, go over this, go to your books, and you'll see what I'm talking about afterwards. Then we say here, ihranjama, izdahama. Yani, ihranjama here, just for the meaning of the word, it means it got crowded. You see how it's mutawa'a, how it's obeying? Ihranjama, meaning it's dahama. It got crowded. They all gathered together. Not they gathered together on their own, but they were gathered together. You understand? And pushed into a crowd. Does that make sense? So you say, remember, the Arabs use their language to express their lifestyle. So ihranjama al-ibil means the camels were gathered all and crowded together. Okay? If they would say it that way. Jazakumullah kulla khair. Okay? So understand, I'm not getting no response from your faces. Your faces look like you don't understand. Do you guys understand what I'm talking about? When I say mutawwa'a here and I use the word ihranjama and using this as an example, here, like I said, ihranjama means they were gathered together. Showing again that it's obeying another fi'lun. Somebody put them and made them get crowded. Like if I came and I started pushing everybody in the corner, then we say, oh, ihrajamna fil qurna. We were all crowded in the corner. Not that we chose to be that way, but we were forced into that. So that's what this verb format shows. And that shows a difference in a 4-lettered root than in another word. Like, hey, jama'na fi qurna. We came together in the corner, which is different. Wallahu a'lam. So here we go, 28. 28 is if'allala, if'allala, yaf'allilu, بشد يعني يفعلل يفعلل. Again, here is another beautiful one. You find it in the Quran. يفعلل. I'm sorry. If'allala, right? If'allal and yaf'allilu. Okay? So iqsharra, iqsha'arra, iqsha'arra, yaqsha'irru. And you find this in the Quran, meaning it was made to happen that way. Okay? Iqsha'arra means your skin got to shake. You got goosebumps. Allah speaks about this, that when you hear the Quran, iqsha'arra juluduhum. Their skin, ooh, they got that, subhanAllah, like that. So that's what this is. Again, this is something happened, but this is muballighatul lazim. This is an extreme expression of something that happened to that person who did it. Okay, muballighatul lazim expresses something that you did in an extreme way. You got extremely touched, that your skin shook. And you got goosebumps when you heard Allah saying, He's going to throw us in hell if we don't do such and such and so and so. And you just didn't do that thing. Okay? So it affected you. Okay? The 29th, I'm sorry. تفعلل تفعلل يتفعلل. يتفعلل. تجلبب, again. تجلبب يتجلبب. Okay. Okay. Tajalbaba yatajalbibu. Same thing. The man put on a jilbab. Okay. He put on one jilbab. He put on another one. He got dressed. He got really dressed up. He didn't just jalbaba, tajalbaba. He got dressed up. You understand where I'm coming from? Ziyadatu. Okay. So it's lazim. 30. Tafa'wala. Tafa'ala. يتفاعل. It's the same thing you're going to see, the same style that we did before, but now it has a taz. You have the ta in here to remember the more meaning. We did fa'ala, then we did fa'ala, yatafa'alu. So you know the next one is going to be tafa'ala, yatafa'alu. Okay? So here it's just, again, the ziyada here is to express the meaning stronger, to make it clear that he really did that thing. Okay? And it's lazim. All these are lazim, meaning they stick to the one that did it. It's not happening to having an object of the verb, but they themselves are the object of the verb. So we call this lazim, or passive in the talk of the other people. And it says tajawraba. Tajawraba. Yatajawribu. And here, there's a thing that we put on our feet. We call it socks. But what do we call it? Jawrab. So tajawraba means what? He put on his socks. Yatajawribu, he put his socks on like that. But he might have put on some thick socks, or he put his socks all the way up, socks all the way up to your knees, or he put on some funny socks that was so this express something about him putting on the socks a little bit more than just jawraba, putting them on. Okay? Like we have a friend, alhamdulillah, barakallah fihi wa hafidhuhullah, Shadid. When he do something, he do it, and he makes a real dramatic scene about it. He put his socks on. One time we were going through customs, and he tajalbaba, jilbab, and took off one jilbab, had another one under it, and then another one under it, and we just laughed at how it. But that's what we were expressing that. Wa barakallah fi Shadid, and I know he won't feel no way about that. Right there, alhamdulillah. 31 is tafa'ala. Tafa'ala. Everybody's laughing that knows Shadid. Tafa'ala. يتفاعل. I'm sorry. يتفاعل. Okay. يتفاعل. I'm sorry. Here we go. Again, in this form right here, it's expressing that, again, something that is solid, person, place, or thing, being turned into a what? Action. Okay? So here you have like, can you guys see this? Tashaytana. Yatashaytanu. Yatashaytanu. What would this mean? Yatashaytanu. What is a shaitan? To be devil. Tashaytana means to act like a little devil. To act shaitanic. You would say shaitanic, and he acted shaitanic. Okay? But English doesn't even express shaitan as an action. Right? But the Arabic takes that action, instead of saying shaitanic, it makes the action shaitani. Okay? We can't even express it in English. Because you can't take that action and make it, that noun in English, and make it into a verb. The closest they can do is shovel. But they've taken an action and made it into a noun. Because the thing's called a spade. But the action is called shoveling. Now we call this spade a shovel. So they've taken the action and made it into a noun. When actually, in Arabic, it takes the noun and makes it into an action. That's stronger and harder. You don't have that expression in English. Okay? So, tashaytana. Let's hope we never yatashaytanu. Shaytana. Let's erase these. That's 31. Okay? We're on 31. We got to go to 35. Hopefully this makes it, because start from the top so they can get this. Hopefully this makes it clear how many Arabic verbs we have. Okay, that there's not 15, and they're not rare. It's just usage. It's just usage. There are a lot of verbs that have wows in them. There are a lot of verbs that are full letter. We say tajalbaba. That's what it's in the Quran. What are we talking about? And that's on level 28. Level 29. None of this jawraba, jalbaba. These are not tashaytana. These are not strange words. Maybe once in a while it's strange to who? To those people who don't speak Arabic on a regular. And if you go to Egypt, wallahi, I never saw Sheikh Muhammad Salim al-Abdul Shankiti laugh so much as a man said he was going to Egypt to learn Arabic. I never saw that. It was a joke. You know, you don't go to Egypt to learn Arabic. That's not what you go there for. You go there to learn Quran, some fiqh, those types of things. They're not well known for their Arabic. They're terrible in Arabic. Terrible. Erase this right here. You know, so and that's just something you don't do. Because if you go to Egypt, Egypt is a city. It's like me going to Brownsville to learn how to speak English. What do people in the hood do? They talk a lot of trash. They talk bad English. You can't learn good English, learning how to speak in Brownsville. Look at all our African brothers and brothers that come from Western Europe. They come over, Eastern Europe. They come over here and they go to these bad neighborhoods and they learn how to talk. They think they're talking slick, but they ain't talking slick. They're picking up bad habits. Likewise, when you go to Egypt, Maghamma, and all these different places, you're going to pick up the bad Arabic unless you go sit with the people where you ask them who are the best Arabs. They tell in the language, the ones out there in the desert. Why? Because they haven't mixed with the people. They haven't picked up. They don't call the phone mobile. It's English. They call it a jawal. Something that you can tajawwal bihi. You can move around with it. You know? They don't call the computer They call it hasub. Now, I mean, what is this? That's what they do. That's word. That's what they do. But you go out in the desert and they say, well, what does it do? Because if we know what it does, then we can name it. We can name it in Arabic. And that's the power of Arabic. It can transcend and pick up that other meaning and put it in its form. Ta'arraba. Meaning they made it Arabic. Okay? So, that's what you need to do. What number are we on? We finished 31? Okay, 32. I'm going to move a little bit quicker here. تفاعل يتفاعل like ترحوك يترحوك This verb here again is lazim. It sticks to the person. It's like tarahwaka is, as far as I remember, I could be wrong, is tarahwaka means the person got tired. Tarahwaka, he got tired. Okay? So I forget exactly the meaning of the verb. But it's lazim. It sticks to the person who did the verb. Alhamdulillah. All right. The next one is tafa'ala. 33, right? We're on 33? تفاعل يتفاعل Here we go. تسلق يتسلق Okay. Here Tasalqa, we already spoke about this before. Somebody who sleeps on his neck. The added letters is, again, more strengthens the expression. He was really leaning on his neck. You know, sometimes you see people, they be like this in the train. Right? You've seen them before. We as people that, like the Imam was saying today, we ride under the city like rats on them subways. You know, it's a filthy place if you really think about it. But we see the people literally like their neck is almost broke. And if the train stops, they go, whoa. They go like that. This is the salqa. Okay? That's what that fi'lun is. Expression. More than just salqa. We together? 34. 34 here we have in if'anlala. 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 Yaf'anlilu. Iq'ansasa. Yaq'ansisu. And this is mubalaghat al-lazim. I forgot what this word means. Let me check it out right here because I don't want to leave you guys like that. What number is it? 34. Okay. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Okay, iq'ansisu. I know why I didn't write this down. You know, iq'ansisu is like, we call it spoon chest. It's like when a person who's so weak, he's fashal, he's like sickly, and his chest is like in his back. You know, you ever see the people? Sometimes these are the people they give like energy drinks. Were originally made for the fashal child, the child who is having, what is the language they use? He's having a problem. Excuse me, failure to strive, thrive, or something like that. They use that language, and it happens to 1 out of 100 child and stuff like that. They call it iq'ansasa. His chest is all sunken, his back and stuff like that, so it's almost protruding backwards. You know, that type of weakness. So that's what this is called. If'anlala. Okay? And then the last one for the 35 is if'anla. If'anla. Yaf'anlu. Yaf'anla. Okay, we're going to do it again. Islanka. Islanka. Okay? Now, as we get towards these last ones, we might say some of these are kind of strange because we don't see this Islanka like that. But that's what, 1 or 2? 1 or 2, let's say 3 out of 35 that will be not used as much as the other ones. Like that. Outside of that, these verbs are used every day if you're speaking Arabic. If you're talking about things, I don't know how many times I say tajal, what I would tell to my children. You know, tajal baby to my girls. We use these af'al. If you tell a child, la taslaka, you know, don't sleep like that. You're sleeping all crouched up. There's different things you can use this stuff. Stick your chest out. Don't be iq'ansasa. Right? So these verbs are not strange in completely. There are going to be some verbs not used as much as other ones. However, the idea that there are only 15 verbs, this is a fallacious thing. And since we only have a little bit of time left, I'm going to erase this piece right here for me, somebody. Do this right here. I'm going to spend a few minutes to show you another different types of fi'lun. Because, like, you erase the whole thing. I'm going to do something here that you only find this in, when you study the Arabic verbs now, each verb has a different style to it, and a reason for its style. For example, if we do fa'ala yaf'ulu, why do we say fa'ala yaf'ulu is different from fa'ala yaf'ilu or fa'ala yaf'alu? Because when you run down these words, they're going to have a different whole meaning with their style. So in the book Mukhtar al-Sihah, which is a book dealing with the strange words and all the mawzun, all the scales of Arabic, it's a type of dictionary. Is Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr al-Razi. This thing is still kind of wet right here. Okay? He talks about this in his book. And first, let me give you some types of fi'lun. You want to know types of fi'lun? The fi'lun is sahih. You have mu'tal. And a mu'tal, and I'm putting this in English because, you know, we wanted to put it on the internet. But a sahih is a verb that, and these are the different types. The verb that doesn't have any weak letters in it, it doesn't have a muda'af in it, and it doesn't have a mahmuz in it. So, this is sahih. It's free from everything else that we come. Mu'tal, it has a weak letter. It has one of these three letters in it. It has an alif, a waw, or a ya in it. And that word awa, if you want to remember that. Now, mu'tal is of different types. Different types. You have ajwaf. You have ajwaf like qala. Okay, the middle radical is weak, right? So it has one of those letters, and you can have qala, yaqulu, qila, those different ones. Then that's one type. The second type of mu'tal is naqis. Naqis is like you have rama. You see the last letter, the last radical, the lam of the letter is a ya. It's like over here. Okay? Then you have, this is bad. Then you have abjad, jim. After that, then you have the lafif. Now lafif is of two types. Okay, you have lafiful makrun, and you have lafif mafruq. And lafiful makrun, just to give you an example, you have tawa. Let me get this one right here. Excuse me. Mafruq is going to be like waqa. Like waqiya, okay? And this one's going to be like tawa. Here on the makrun, qarana, meaning they're next to each other. So the ayn and the lam of the letter are weak letters. And then the mafruq, faraka, there's a farq, bayna two, there's something between them. So you have the waw and the ya of these letters. So you have sahih and mu'tal. Those are, if you talk about the different letters, they're in that format. The next one here is you have muda'af, abjad. Okay, here, 1, 2, 1, 2. The third one, you would have here muda'af. Okay, muda'af, as a definition, is a word, a verb that has the ayn and the lam of the letter the same letter. What does that mean? Like rub. Okay, but rub is not a verb. But I'm using rub as an example. You see, because we know that word so much. It's ayn and the lam. It's actually rababa. So here, we'll find as a verb, madda. Everybody knows what a madda is. Madda or radda. Radda yaruddu or habba. Right? Or hibbu. So we know these words. The ayn and the lam is the same letter. Okay? So that's mudaf. And the next type is mahmuz. Everybody say mahmuz. Mahmuz, a verb mahmuz is a verb that has a hamza in it. That's why you say hamaza, hamza in the word. So we call it mahmuz. And mahmuz is of three different types also. You have mahmuzul fa, like akhada. You see that? In the fa. You have mahmuzul ayn, like sa'ala. And you have mahmuzul lam, like qara'a. These are verbs. And it is a poem. I'm not going to give it to you because I'm just trying to run it down on you right quick. We're going to see different types of verbs. These are different types of verbs. Okay? And that's what we're going to, when we deal with verbs, we're going to break this language down to its very last compound. And it's real easy. You just got to take your time. It ain't going to happen overnight. And the mustashik, the Oriental, he don't know what he's talking about. He don't even know how to present the language. This guy, I was going through his book over here. When he presents it, he starts up with orthography, but he doesn't even know where to stop, where orthography starts and stops in the language. Okay? So you have to remember to take it from the people who speak it and utilize it to worship their Lord. You're not going to play with something like that. Anyway, let's go through these verbs again. Now I gave you the scale and the meanings of the scale. Here, you have fa'ala yaf'ulu. Say fa'ala yaf'ulu. Now, on the scale, erase this if you would. On the scale of fa'ala yaf'ulu, you have 7 different scales. 7 different meanings. Okay, so we have, the first one we say nasara, yansuru. Okay? Say nasara, yansuru, nasran. Okay? So you have nasara, yansuru. Say it, guys. Okay, so here, this is muta'addi. This is aggressive. Okay? So whenever you find a verb that's going to be on the scale of fa'ala yaf'ulu and it's aggressive, then you know it's going to be fa'ala yaf'ulu fa'lan. Okay? All of them. In the whole language. It's going to be like nasara. And you'll find it in the books. It'll say like nasara. So you automatically know this verb goes fa'ala yaf'ulu fa'lan. What if it's on the scale fa'ala yaf'ulu, but it's not aggressive, it's lazim, it sticks to itself. So then you go over to the next one, and you say dakhala. Dakhala yadkhulu. Yadkhulu, and here's dukhulan. So now you're going to know if it's not aggressive and it's on a scale of fa'ala yaf'ulu, then it's going to be like dakhala. And you know dakhala yadkhulu? Dukhulan. And if it has in it a dealing with government, dealing with officiality, then it's going to be like kataba. Kataba yaktubu kitabatan. And so what do you say when you deal with a safara? You say, I'm going to the safara. What do you say? You're going to the imara. When either you're dealing with government or dealing with officiality, it's like kataba yaktubu kitabatan. This is all under fa'ula. Then that's the third one. Then it's the fourth one. If it's a muda'af, because we said those are different types of verbs now. What if it's muda'af? Then it's like radda yaruddu raddan. Radda yaruddu raddan. And the only exception in the whole Arabic language that's a muda'af fi'lun, that doesn't go on fa'al radda yaruddu, is habba, yuhibbu. That's the only one in the whole Arabic language that's muda'af, meaning it has the ayn and the lam together, but it don't go radda yarudu, and it's muta'addi. Dig that. Now, what if it is ajwaf? What if it's a mu'tal, a weak verb that has a weak letter in the middle? Then it's like qala. Ever say qala? What do you say qala? Yaqulu. You see that? Qawlan. This is the scale. And this is why we memorize the language, because when we hear it, what is it like? Is it like qala? Is it like radda? Is it like, we go through it. So we know what that word is, because we know what the scale is and what the classical examples are. When you memorize this, and you go to the dictionaries, and you'll see in the dictionary, it'll tell you the word that says kataba. You know everything you need to know now about that verb. You know, oh, it's kataba yaktubu kitabatan. Oh, it has something to do with officiality. Rasmi, government, or writing. You start learning. Then if it's like, okay, if it has at the end of it, now we say, okay, at the end of it, it has ada, ya'du. Then we have adwan, right? Adwan. Now we got this. This is my slide behind it. Ada, ya'du, adwan. So we already know. Or sama, yasmu, sumuwan. Okay, so here we got it. We start to learn all the different. This is just for fa'ala yaf'alu. Now that's one style. Let's go. Give me another card here. I'm a pen. Now we got fa'ala, right? Yaf'ilu. And fa'ala yaf'ilu has 5 scales. How many scales? Cover that one up. 5 scales. Jazakallah khair. In this one, we have daraba. Say daraba. Yadribu. Right? So we know, and it's darban. Right? So we know automatically that if it is fa'ala yaf'ilu and it's muta'addi, it's like daraba yadribu darban. Don't we know it's the same thing with nasra yansuru? Right? It's nasra yansuru, nasran, darban. So we start to learn the fi'lun, if it has fa'lan as its masdar, if it's last style, then we know this one is muta'addi. Then what do we do if we say, okay, now that's daraba, let's say jalasa. Let's say if it is, this pen is not working. Yajlisu, daraba, jalasa yajlisu, julusan. You see this? Now this is again. Now this is lazim, it's sticking to itself. This is the second scale. The third scale is ba'a. Ba'a, yabi'u. Now what do? Bay'an. This is what we do when we realize that it has ajwaf, but it goes with kasra in there. This one, if it goes right here with the dhamma. Qala yaqulu, so then it's ba'a yabi'u bay'an. Another one is qala yaqulu qawlan. We're going to get this. We know what scale it's going to be. Oh, give me another one of these. Thank you. That's the third one. The fourth one is, here is ba'a, wa'ada. Wa'ada. Ya'idu. Wa'adan. This is what happens when we know that this, ya'idu, okay. We know now whenever a waw is at the fa of the kalima, waw is the first radical, it's going to be fa'ala yaf'ilu, if it's like that, or fa'ila yaf'ilu. Wa'ada ya'idu. Okay? Because the waw is getting dropped. And it's going to kesra. That's if so we know that. The waw fa'in. That's what we hear in the poem. The waw and fa. If the verb is its fa the letter, a waw, then it's going to be yaf'ilu. Then we go over here. What happens if at the end of it we have a ya, a weak letter? So it's rama. What is it? Yarmi, right? Ramyan. Here we go. So here we got it, the weak letters in the middle. Here we got it at the end. Same thing over here, depending on the scale. We know how to deal with these verbs. Erase the board over on that side. We're going to get busy on the next one. We're going to go through all of the mujarrid, because we got a few minutes, right? Thank you. Rub it hard so that I don't get into trouble with my pen. The next one, I don't like people to sit around without anything. If everybody wants to know the Mukhtar Sahih, I was trying to remember his name is Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr al-Razi. I was thinking about earlier. Okay, the next scale that we have here is, and I put these in my order. See, the difference between what I do is, I listen to the classes, then I put it in order how a Westerner would think, and how it would make it easier. And that's what I had to do to get this. And you don't have to reinvent the meal to do it, but it's already been done for you. Because some of these things I had to go and learn and say, well, you know, it wasn't set up that way. So you guys say, how could what I set up, would it make it easier for me? Those two scales are the main two scales, fa'ala yafilu and then fa'ala yafilu. Those are the main scales. So then I switched after that to go to one that was easier in number, how they do it. And I go to the scale that goes fa'ala yaf'alu. Yaf'alu. And here it only has two scales. Okay? Two scales. The first one is going to be qata'a. Yaqata'u. I'm sorry. Yaqata'u. Okay? And qata'an. Qata'an. Okay? And the second one will be khada'a. Khada'a. Yaqda'u. Yaqda'u khudu'an. Alright, the waqt. Okay, I'm going to get it. Khudu'an. Alright, so this is fa'ala yaf'alu. And these again, the ayn of the letter is the ayn, which is a hurufu halqi. So that's why it's done that way. Let me go faster. And the next one is fa'ala, fa'ula. Fa'ula, and I did it this way, again, trying to say fa'ula, yaf'ulu, because also it has two scales too. So they're similar in that way. And the other ones only go, what do you mean? Fa'ula, yaf'ulu, here we go like here, and it goes dharufa, dharufa, yadhrufu, dharafatan. And here the only difference between these is because they're both lazim. And then the other one is sahula, yashulu, suhulatan. Okay, those are the two scales right there. 1, 2. The third, okay, next one right here is we're going to deal with fa'ila, and I put fa'ila last here. And this one is fa'ila yaf'alu. Yaf'alu. Okay, and this has 4 scales, but it's pretty easy. This one is tariba, yatrabu, taraban. See here, this one is taraban. Okay, this is the other one from tarban. Okay, taraban. The second one would be fahima, yafhamu, fahman. Okay, the third one here would be salima, yaslamu, salamatan. Okay, and the fourth one would be sadiya, yasda, right, sadan. Okay, that's 4. Now the last one here, Some people don't consider this a scale. I do. And not myself. I'm not the one that made it this scale. It is a scale under some of the ulama. Some of them don't consider it a scale though. Okay, fa'ila yaf'ilu. Okay, and that one goes like, it has one scale, and that is wathiqa, yathiqu, wuthuqan. That is all the thulathi, naked verbs, and that are all, you will never find a naked verb on a thulathi scale except that it falls in one of these ways. And if we explain and went through each one to explain why the difference is, then you would understand verbs from a different aspect every time you hear it. Every time you hear a verb and you hear, okay, tariba yatrabu taraban, okay, so we know this word right here, how this verb is going, it's aggressive. Fahima yafhamu fahman, fahima mada. Okay, he had that, it's muta'addi, it has something here to take on. He had fahman, adraka shay'an, actually, he is the one that fahman, I'm sorry, it's lazim. He understood something here. And then we go, salima yaslamu salamatan. This is ummatun. Again, when you find this scale of this word on fa'alatan, then it's spread. It's not stuck to one thing. Salamatan, because peace can't be on one person. It has to be general. In the fishality, sadiya yasda, sadan. Then you have wathika, yathiku, wuthuqan. And I'm just going a little fast because of the time here. The last one here, on fa'ila yaf'ilu, it has to be understood. Whenever you have a wow, whenever you have a wow at the beginning of a fi'lun, it's going to be either, like we did earlier, wa'ada ya'idu, or wathika yathiku. That's it. That's it. And you could go wathika yathiku thiqatan, or wuthuqan. You can do there's different endings that you can go here. And this is how we understand it. Qata'a yaqta'u qata'an, and khada'a yaqda'u khudu'an. This is always going to be a fatha because the ayn of the lam of the letter has an ayn on it. And the huruf al-halqi are 6. Hamzun, faha'un, thumma aynun, ha'un. Muhmalatani, meaning they don't have anything on them. Thumma ghaynun, kha'u. These 6 letters, when they come on the ayn or the lam of a word, then it's going to be like qata'a yaqta'u or fataha yaftahu if it's going to be in any way. Everybody got me? This is how we're going to go with these words right here. These are all, again, fa'ala yaf'ilu, like daraba yadribu darban. That is muta'addi. Jalasa yajlisu julusan. That is lazim. Ba'a yabi'u bay'an. That means it's ajwaf. In the middle of it, it has to have a ya, or an alif came there, so it comes to the ya and it's mudari'. Or wa'ida ya'idu, that means it's a wa'du, wawi, fa'an, but it comes on the scale of fa'ala. So it's going to be yaf'ilu in the middle. But you automatically know that if it has a waw there, it's going to be yaf'ilu. No exception. Actually, you have waghira yawgaru. That's the two-faced ones, but I listed them to the wajhaini. Min ihsib ma' wa ghirt, min ihsib ma' wa ghirta, min ihsib ma' wa ghirta wa hirta. I can't list them off the top of my head right now because I'm trying to do it. Min ihsib ma' wa ghirta wa hirta, in an'am wahila. There's about 6 of them that are two-faced, and they come like waghira sadru. He got hiqt. He got angry. He started to hate. So he could say yaghiru, or he could say yawgaru. This is an exceptional style. And there's only a few verbs that do that. You will memorize the ones that do that and be familiar with them. Okay? Warima is the last one when you get through a thing. Min ihsab, you say hasiba. Hasiba yahsibu wa yahsabu. In Warsh, they say yahsibu. In Hafs, they say yahsabu. So you see the proof that both are used in the language. But the point is that when we study these verbs, or we study this language, we go from the root to the tooth, as they say, and we get it, and we have to remember that this is what distinguishes us in our studies. We are not trying to hold anybody back in the lessons, but there is a minhaj. And the minhaj is, first, we have to break down the word Araba and know that Arabic as a language has 3 types of letters. There is an ismun, a fi'lun, and a harfun. We are here. We ain't even finished the harfun. We put the ismun last because of its loftiness over its 2 companions. But we can get the huruf knocked out. And there's 3 types of huruf. What are the 3 types of huruf? For our purpose. There are general letters, right? Basic letters, right?
Letters with extra meaning.
Letters that have meanings, right? Letters that hold meaning. And what else? Connectors. We need to stay here. We haven't, general letters are alifun, ba'un, ta'un, tha'un, jimun, ha'un, kha. That's basic letters. We haven't even finished them. We as students don't even know the correct order that the letters actually came from. Abjad, hawaz, huttiya, kaliman, sa'fas, qurishat, thakhid, or thakhud, dadb. Those are letters right there, and how to pronounce them. What are the sifat for each one of those letters? What is the tajweed rule for each one of them? So we're familiar just with that general letter. Because if we get that part down pat, really own it, it'll help us when we start saying qata'a. And we don't say qata'a, or kata'a, or kata'a, which is hamza. Chew the language up, spit it out. How you know, you sound totally unintelligent. And now that you are, because you don't know what you're talking about. Then after you get past the general letters, the letters of meanings. Sa'altumuniha, simple statement. Sa'altumun, as-sin, sa'altumuni, those are the letters that have meanings. Like mu in front of a word, and ma in front of a word, and mi in front of a word, and ista. And then some of these scales become so much easier because they work together. The noon from in fa'ala and the ta from ifta'ala. And what these words mean. So then that's with the letters with meaning. Then we get on to connectors. Min ila wa hurufu khafti, now. من إلى وعن وفي وربا وبا وعلى والكاف واللام وون وتا ومذ ومنذ ولعل حتى. And then we have ولم ولما وألم ألم. Then we have وأن وأن. You know, we have a bunch of these letters that we haven't touched on yet. When the an comes, they make what comes after it fatha. Okay? When the one that come with jazm, lam yaf'al. You know? And then we did the huruful khafti. And that's the min ila wa an wa fi wa rubba wal ba wa al. And we can get that down and comfortable with it. Then we can move on to fi'lun. And then when we get to this, we'll take time and go over this and break it down. And then when we finish that, we move on to ismun. And then when we finish this, the ismun, you're carrying. You're packing. You have tools now that you can use. It's time to go on to another science. Hopefully tajweed, which will take you another level with this. And then after that, rasm will go along with that. Learning how to write, which is one of the 13 sciences. Learning how to write, how to listen and take dictation when you're doing the Arabic language. Patience. Till finally we get to balagha. And we learn fasahatul kalam, how to express ourselves. What a ma'ani is. What badi'atul kalam. How to say it, make a statement, and make it clear. How to say a statement in 2 different ways, meaning the same thing, so that everybody understands what we're talking about. Okay? And then after that, we get to some shi'r. Qawafi. Amin ummi aw fadimnatun lam tukallami bihawmanatin darraji fal mutatallami. And we will go over mu'allaqat as-sab'i. You don't master the language, so you do mu'allaqat. At least one. But that's taking the lugha. We want to go step by step to learn this so that we can move on to the Quran. And many students aren't patient enough to do this and at the same time memorize Quran. It's the only thing you should be doing other. Take the time if you want to be a real student. A lot of times nowadays students want to do that. They want to hurry up and get to becoming a fuqaha. You don't do that unless you get your foundation straight. Take your time. And then finally, when you finally got it, we get to tafsir and ahl al-hadith. But when you get to become Ahl al-Hadith and instead of you've already gotten the tools necessary from Usul al-Fiqh and Usul al-Hadith, like Bayquniyya, and we start to understand these things, what's going on there, then you will be able to listen and read the Hadith, understand what is being said from many different angles, And then read the statements of the ulama and use that to guide your children, yourself, your children, and those around you. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. I wish everybody to have, inshallah ta'ala, I wish everybody to have a great Ramadan fast. Don't do too much talking, don't too much hanging out, and too much eating. Pray at home where people can't see you. Assalamu alaikum.